This is Giving the Game Away, an attempt to shine light on areas of the modern sporting world that aren't talked about that much. We had the idea to do a podcast, and we originally just said to each other, right, let's interview some sports people about their mindset for approaching elite sport. But as that idea has grown and come on, we've realised that there is just so much to be encapsulated in the world of modern sport that we could talk about. And so each person we interview will try and reflect a different corner of that world.
We've interviewed a whole range of athletes from football, cricket, rugby, basketball and more, but we've also tried to speak to people from within sport in other areas such as broadcasters and agents and psychologists, and we hope that the interviews shine a light on areas of sport that you may not know that much about.
I don't know if you listen to Hector Bellerin's podcast, which is called More Than Just a Footballer, and it's so good, by the way, but he basically has the idea to take top-level footballers and interview them about more than their profession, and it's definitely something that we take inspiration from. And so today, I don't know, I'm pretty excited because I kind of feel like we've got our own replica of his podcast going on today with our guest, Luke Amos, who is 100% more than just a footballer.
Yeah, you know me, I'm always very excited to get a footballer on the podcast. And as you say, Luke is more than just a footballer. He's got so many interests away from the pitch. And I'm pretty sure he's had the busiest lockdown out of anyone I know. Away from training, he learnt French and the piano. And he's basically trying to break the mould and change the narrative about footballers being unintelligent, which is obviously a stereotype that people chuck around.
And mate, yeah, I 100% remember sending you an Athletic article on Luke Amos. And we were replying instantly to each other on WhatsApp saying about how he'd 100% be the kind of guy that we'd want to get on the pod. And so we can find out what it's like to play for Spurs. You know, he's played against Barcelona in front of 65,000 people. So we can find out all about that. And then more importantly, find out about the areas that he wants to make a difference in and all the stuff he's interested in as well, because he's such a well-rounded guy. He's
also had a pretty busy last few weeks, obviously making that move from Spurs, where he spent over a decade of his career, to QPR, where he was on loan last year. But he's also been out in Mykonos for a week with what seemed like pretty much every other player from the Championship and Premiership. It seemed like all the squads are out there this year. But luckily, Luke managed to return unscathed, unlike Harry Maguire, obviously got in a little bit of trouble while in Mykonos. But yeah, he should be a good way to kick off this next lot of episodes.
Firstly, I guess, just massive congrats on the move. Must be, quite sick to be starting at a place that you're already well established at and to sort of enter this new phase of your career.
That's why it was weird. When I joined QPR this time permanently, it didn't even feel like I was even moving club. Of course, I'm leaving Tottenham, but I spent last year there. I had so much fun last year. I enjoyed myself. It's a really good group. So it was seamless. Like a seamless transition. Obviously, when you leave, I've been at Tottenham for 14 years. So leaving a club like Tottenham, you think it'd be difficult, but because I sort of knew everyone already, it was easy.
Yeah, and it must have been good because obviously you made the move, but at the same time you had a lot of interest from a few clubs. Like Cam and I were following the transfer, so that must have been some decent gratification to see all those clubs interested in you.
Yeah, of course. Whenever you see, whenever anyone is a fan of you, it's always nice to hear. But I sort of knew early doors where I wanted to go, just because I was there last year. I know if I signed for QPR, the gaffer, I get on well with the gaffer, and he'll give me a good opportunity. So it was nice. But the other interest was nice, but I sort of knew where I wanted to go.
I think a lot of players who have been at an academy, Premier League club, and then have stayed at that Premier League club for years, like yourself, you were at Spurs for over a decade, weren't you? Quite a lot of players in that position would be tempted to stay with a Premier League club, but you, I guess, decided you wanted to get more minutes by playing in the Championship. Did that factor into your decision?
Yeah, of course. Some players, they like to hang around a bit longer, and then obviously it's a gamble. Well, everything's a gamble, really. You might hang around, you might get your chance, then you might only take one chance, and then that's it, you're in. But the way I see it, I've always felt like I've got to do things the longer way, the harder way. Obviously, I get into the first team, I tear my ACL. So now I got never go the next route. So I felt like it wasn't a surprise to me that I wasn't shocking myself when I thought, okay, yeah, let's go to QPR, let's drop down to the Championship, because I know I'm going to get to where I want to be, which is the Premier League. But I just got to do it the longer way. But I'm cool with that journey as long as I get there, and I know I'm going to get there. So
I guess as a footballer, you are always training or playing matches, and you very rarely have some time to sit back and reflect on any achievements you've had. So it must have been nice going to Mykonos with some teammates and celebrating that move to QPR.
Yeah, the deal was done after my holiday, so I'd already been back. I was already training and stuff. But Mykonos was just like because it was a long, long season. So even during the lockdown and when we were training from home, we're still training during that time. So to try and keep yourself in top condition from the season start, June, all the way through to like end of July was like a long, long, that's nearly 13 months. So I allowed myself like a week and a bit in Mykonos with some of the other players as well.
It seemed like loads of clubs went out to Mykonos, like pretty much the whole of the Prem and the Championship. The whole squad were there. I think it's because one of the only places that wasn't on the quarantine list.
Exactly. Like I actually went to Spain first. Then I was there for one day, and then the government said, "Oh, if you've been to Spain, you have to quarantine." So I actually just flew straight to Mykonos. It's just because there was nowhere else to go. It was a nightmare. Like we were planning on going to Dubai, but then obviously they changed their rules as well. So it was Mykonos or bust for pretty much everyone, really. But it was good. It was very good. It's plus because obviously a lot of the Premier League players and the Championship players were out there. Everyone knows everyone. So you're with your 5 or 6, but then you meet another 5 or 6. Then it's just so much to do.
Yeah, a week in Mykonos maybe not the best thing if you're just going to have your body fat tested though when you get back.
But do you know what? My body fat, I came back, it was 4.9%. So yeah, the target is like under 10. So I'm miles under 10. I'm quite lucky. Like I eat well and live well, but I got some good genes as well that allow me to fit away a little bit more.
Yeah, decent. What's your sort of view on all the scrutiny the footballers are getting for going out in Mykonos? There's obviously Harry Maguire got in trouble, but generally they're getting quite a bit of stick for it.
I think it's so unfair how footballers are not allowed to. Yeah, they're not allowed to enjoy themselves. We're normal people first. Of course, there's a certain level of professionalism that you have to live up to, especially those that are in the public eye, or those that are in the public eye a bit more. But I still think we're allowed to enjoy ourselves. But I think the way most players and that do it now, they just do it more privately. So instead of maybe going out into a public place, like, I don't know, like the club or whatever, they'll just have like more people at their own villa or whatnot where they can control who's there. But at the end of the day, we're allowed to enjoy ourselves. It's the only like a 9-10 month season to allow yourself to have a week, 2 weeks. That's not criminal, is it? Surely.
I feel sorry for Harry Maguire. Like, obviously, we don't know exactly what happened, but it seemed like he was just on his holiday trying to enjoy himself after a long, hard season. And, like, he's got people trying to antagonise him and cause trouble. You do got to feel sorry for him.
Yeah. It's difficult because obviously we don't know the details. And, of course, so any footballer that's in the public eye, he can't be getting into trouble with the police. Obviously, we don't know the details and stuff. I have no issue with any footballers going there. They're following all the rules. They're listening to all the government advice and whatever. They're not getting into trouble. They're just enjoying themselves. They might have like a drink or two, like, and enjoy some good food. I don't see any issue with that really. Like each to their own, but you just can't be getting in trouble with the police. I suppose that's where he's gone wrong.
Why do you think in general it is footballers who are so scrutinised in the public? Because they're one of the most sort of scrutinised group of people, definitely.
Yeah. I actually don't know why, because the majority of footballers will come from like working class backgrounds, brought up on an estate or whatever. So then, like, of course, it's a lot of money for something that only seems like a kicking the ball around, but like they're only just working class people that have made something of themselves, if that makes sense. So I always find it difficult to understand why people scrutinise so much. Of course, in the past, the opinion of a footballer just being dumb, maybe it hasn't helped that narrative. But you speak to some footballers now, like they're studying at the same time, they have business interests, this, that. So to answer that question, I don't know why they're so scrutinised. I don't want to say jealousy because that's just easy to throw out there. I don't know, it does. It bewilders me, to be honest. I don't know why.
As you say, there is that stereotype that footballers aren't that intelligent, but it is a bit unfair. There's so many footballers who are intelligent and, as you say, have businesses and do academia on the side. Like even people like Gary Neville, like you see him as a pundit and he's so articulate, so intelligent, and like people like Marcus Rashford doing a lot with his platform. But yeah, you're someone who is trying to break that mould of and that stereotype of footballers not being intelligent. And I think over lockdown, weren't you learning French and maybe the piano as well? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Personally, I couldn't really care less about what people think of me. Like, I know who I am. I know what I am. Like, I know for 1,000,000% that I'm not just a dumb footballer, if that makes sense. But in terms of lockdown, like, I'm still continuing so basically, I learned French in school. Then I stopped for a bit, and then when I was injured, I carried on. Then I stopped again because I joined QPR. But during the lockdown, I thought it was a really opportunity to because I'm not doing much else other than training, to really focus on it. So yeah, I just carried on with my French. I'm still doing it now. I've always wanted to speak another language fluently, and I learned it at school. So French was always like more natural to me. Than I did want to do Spanish, but I already had the French basics, so I just carried on with that. And I'm still carrying on now. There's a few French-speaking players at QPR, so like every now and then I'll just like see how good I am, have a little conversation. Even in Mykonos, like if I notice anyone speaking French, I'll try joining their conversation in French too. But the piano is something that probably more later down the line, because I've always wanted to play an instrument at the same time. But I'm not someone that can do loads of things at once. Like football and French is probably enough for me right now. If I try to do football, French, and piano, then I'll probably be like a master of none of them, if that makes sense. So, but yeah, it's just something to just keep my brain like, I don't know, occupied. While there's a lot of training at the same time, there's a lot of like downtime as well in the afternoons, evenings. So if I can have like an hour and a half with my French tutor, or listen to a podcast, or even just Duolingo for a bit, take me off Instagram and Twitter and that, it makes it worth it.
I guess if, as a footballer, you're either training, playing matches, watching football, playing FIFA or something. So you've always got football in your mind, so it's probably quite nice to switch off by doing those things you've mentioned.
Yeah, it's perfect. When I was a bit younger, I struggled with like switching off. It was like I'd go home from training, think about training all day long, wake up in the morning, it's the first thing you think about. But as I've got older now, like I find it easier. Like, of course, I reflect on the training session and each day. But once it's done, it's like, hey, that's done now. On to the next day. That's how you stay sane, really. If you think about in any job you do, if you think about it 24/7, you're gonna go crazy in the end, I think.
Yeah, and you've got quite an interest in psychology as well, I was reading.
Yeah, I do. Like, I can't lie. I only really read like during the summer, or during the lockdown when the weather's a bit nicer. Like, I might be in the garden or on holiday or whatnot. I struggle to read indoors, but when I do read, I always choose like a psychology book. I probably read like 4 or 5. It's weird. Like, my introduction to psychology was the Chimp Paradox, which is probably like one of the deeper ones. So from then I've gone like a bit lighter. Obviously, I read that. I've read Relentless. What other books? I'm reading one now called The Consolidation of Philosophy or something like that, which is another like quite heavy book. I just find it interesting, really, like the brain learning about itself. So just try and take little things where I can.
Yeah.
We're both really interested in psychology. It's something we're sort of talking about a lot in this podcast because we think it's so important in sport. But yeah, I think you mentioned that Relentless book. Isn't that, I think we saw it was Rashford's favourite book as well. Is it something that players would talk about in the changing room, like psychology or reading?
To be fair, the only time I really heard some book talk was around summer when everyone's like, oh, what are you going to read on the beach and all that.
I bet in Mykonos you weren't all reading.
I took a book, to be fair.
Definitely didn't get read.
But I probably read like 2 pages. I probably read about 2 pages. But to be fair, in terms of books, like Relentless was a good book, but it didn't give me what I wanted. I was expecting so much more. Relentless sort of just said, oh, you should think this, you should think this, you should do this. But it didn't really explain the process of how to get there. It would say like Kobe, basically they talk about like Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan a lot. So it said, Michael Jordan would do this, Kobe Bryant would do this, rather than explaining the process of like how to get there. It's rather, he would just tell you to think like this, do this, eat this, drink this, rather than the process of why. First of all, why would you think like that, and then how to get there, if that makes sense. But I think Chimp Paradox is probably, as my first, but it's probably one of the better books that I've read in terms of psychology. That just helps you understand your brain, and then when you sort of understand your brain a bit better, you sort of realise why you do certain things, why you react to certain situations.
It doesn't have to be reading either. There's obviously loads of stuff you can find out more about psychology from, like even stuff like The Last Dance or like All or Nothing.
Oh yeah, that was unbelievable.
Yeah, or All or Nothing, for example, like these little documentaries that properly show you what goes on in a sports team. I think you can take so much from.
Are you going to be in that all or nothing? The Spurs one?
Nah. I missed. It would have been no. I missed out because obviously last year I was at QPR. Maybe the year before you might have seen me moping around the physio room with a giant knee brace on. But I missed out from the most recent one.
Yeah, and that obviously then brings us on to you with injuries, because you obviously went through quite a massive injury at like quite a key point in your career. So what was that like dealing with that really? Because obviously you said before that it was quite tough.
Yeah, that 2018 was just like a crazy year. So I spent the first 3-4 months at Stevenage in League Two. We probably finished about like 18th. Like, so we didn't get relegated, but we're like just floating above it. I go back into Tottenham and like I want to go on loan. Okay, I've done League Two. Let me go to League One. But Tottenham staff are really good. They said you've got like when I come back, they felt like I was a bit different. But anyway, I got a bit lucky with the opportunity because the World Cup had just finished. So a lot of the players weren't back yet. So I was chucked in front of obviously Pochettino at the time, and he knew me before, of course, but like he really took to me this time. Then obviously I'd done well as well. Then I'm flying. I'm starting every single preseason game. I think I was unlucky not to start the first Premier League game, but I came on, made my debut anyway. Then like 2-3 weeks later, I think there's a Carabao Cup game in the week. I think it was West Ham. I was like, oh, I'll probably play in that. But then I didn't in the end. I didn't play. Me and like Skippy and a few others to play in the 23s. Then in a nothing game, gone to press, changed direction, knee gone completely. Honestly, I was gutted, but I didn't even know how serious it was going to be at the time. I was thinking 3 months, worst case. Okay, I'll come back in January. If the gaffer don't fancy me, okay, I'll go out on loan. But then to get 9 months was like, oh my God, I've just finally got to where I want to be. Like I've been working my whole life to get here. And then just like that, it's gone. And in football, things move fast. Like literally the week after I tore my ACL, there was a lot of first team injuries. So then like other players got opportunity against like Barcelona on the bench in the Champions League and all that. But I told you, I just got to do things the hard way. Like
that is brutal. You get a taste of Premier League football and then just you get it all torn away from you. It's so unfair.
Exactly. Like, but that's life. It's not even just football. That's life. Like. Life's not fair, so you just got to deal with it. It's not because it's unfair, it's just life, so you just got to deal with it. Of course, it's easy to say that now because I've got through it. I'm in like a positive place now, but that was really tough. Like, I've never been like that low before, and it probably pushed me to like motivate myself. But I found like energy and like motivation that I never thought I had. Like everyone else has gone home. Like I've sneaked around to the academy gym at like 6 o'clock to do like an extra like boxing session or on the ropes or upper body. Like I really, really pushed myself, and that's like why I am where I am now. Of course, I'm not in the Premier League yet, but I'm still at a club where I'm at a championship. A lot of boys would love to be in their championship, so it's just like at least I'm on this stepping stone, ready to push them to the next one.
Yeah, well, it's good that you managed to motivate yourself through those injuries because they are quite mentally draining injuries. Like there's so much probably playing in your mind, like. Are other players going to overtake me? Obviously, you were at quite a pivotal part of your career. Then you're thinking, like, am I ever going to get back to the point I was before the injury? So all of that is just so mentally draining, I imagine.
Yeah, it is. It is, and it's quite lonely as well. Like it's just you in the physio room by yourself. But the way I saw it is that I had no choice but to give 100% every day because if I don't, I'm only letting myself down. Like I am where I am now, so I just got to deal with it. Like. If I don't do the gym session properly or I don't do the runs properly or the bike or even when it's just like initially when you can't do anything, you just got to use like electrical impulses on your legs. If I don't do that, then I'm only letting myself down and I'm not going to get to where I want to be. So I just had to do it and I did it and I got through it, I suppose. But then so psychologically it's tough because you might have a little game. Okay, you're walking now, but then like another player plays in the first team, you're like, oh, that should have been me or if that makes sense. If it's not like so, but I don't know. It's just one of the things. Well, it's weird now. Like when I try to think back to it, I can remember every single day of my injury, but it also feels like a one big blur at the same time. Like I can remember the first time that I was allowed to swim, first time I was allowed to run, but then it feels like I can't even think. Like remember the emotions that I felt during that time, which is such a strange thing in my head. I don't know. I can't explain it.
Yeah. Well, I guess in a way it was, if it was going to happen, it's not too bad that it happened when you were at Spurs with the support network you had, because you must have come through with the academy with all those boys and been really close with them, so you had a support network to dip into.
Yeah, especially also at Tottenham, you've got world-class facilities as well, which means that I'm getting every single thing that I could possibly need. And plus, I've been there a long time, so I got on along well. I can't even speak. I got on well with the staff and all that, but they looked after me. And plus, you got your friends, your family, they're all there for you as well. But it's important to have that around you. But you got yourself. You've got to be mentally strong, because you're the only one in the gym on some days. You're the only one in the physio room. When you go to sleep at night, it's just you and your thoughts. So you got to mentally stay strong. But it's always good to be able to lean on some people. There's a couple of days when I feel really down, and I might need someone else just to pick me up a little bit. I think, yeah, in life and in football in particular, there's so many ups and downs. It's important to have people that keep you grounded, people that keep you when you are down, lift you up, people that when you are feeling on top of on top of the world, that they do remind you that, I don't know, just I guess keep you grounded and keep you humble. And also, it's important for people for people around you to be a reminder of that you are very privileged, you're very lucky. Like, I'm quite religious myself, so I try and always, I thank God for the fact that I can see, speak, run, jump. Like, some people don't even have food on their plates. They wake up in Syria, their houses are getting bombed and whatnot. So I never allow myself to go too low, because look how privileged I am. Again, that's just the ups and downs of life, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we obviously spoke to Kane, as I said, on WhatsApp, and he was saying that with injuries he's dealt with, it's been so important to have that support network, to confide in, but also, just to bring each other up, really.
Yeah, I think it is important. But I don't know, it's super important to have people you can trust. I think most of all, it's important to have people that you can trust, so you can be honest with how you're feeling, and they just treat you like a normal person back, not like you're Luke Amos, the footballer, or whatever. If I say I'm down and I find it tough, I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, you're allowed to find it tough. You don't have to be Superman every day. So that's quite important.
I think you've obviously got awareness that you're in a privileged position, and obviously that's true, but that doesn't take away from the fact that football is a really stressful business. You've got injuries to deal with, you've got fan pressure, you've got social media, you've got being left out of the team. All of that is a lot to deal with.
Yeah, there is a lot. There is a lot, and you can get lost in it as well. I've tried to just simplify everything in my mind. I can only do what I do. I can only work hard. I can only pray, and then what will happen will happen. I can only control how I train every day. If the manager's not going to pick me, he's not going to pick me. If I do every single thing I need to do in the gym, I eat right, sleep right, and I get injured, I get injured.
Yeah.
This is something that you just can't control. All you can do is control the controllables, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's how you get confidence, I guess. But do you feel nervous playing in front of thousands of people? I saw that you played in front of 70,000 people against Barca, and that's crazy. For a lot of people, it'd be quite stressful. Yeah. Do you find that nerve-wracking?
Now, no, but I think at the time, my lone experiences really helped me with that. So I went to Southend first. That was probably my first, we play Millwall away, you might get, I don't even know, maybe 10, 15,000 or whatever. Stevenage, when you're in League Two, you get slightly less, but still that experience of being put in front of fans. So then when we went to America, and I'm playing against Barcelona in front of 50, 60 screaming Barcelona fans. I don't know. I didn't even think about it. You walk out, you're like, oh wow, look at the stadium. But after that, it's straight back into football mode. If anything, I had more nerves about playing well.
Yeah.
But now, especially obviously last year, my first few championship games, of course, it's a new level and you're adjusting and stuff, and there's a bit of nerves. But now I go out there, I know I've got a job to do, and I just do it. I try to do it anyway to the best of my ability. Sometimes I might miss the target in that, but I'm trying. I'm not doing it on purpose.
I guess a big pressure on players at the moment is social media. I mean, players are getting berated on social media all the time if they have a bad game, and everything is online. Do you take much notice of that?
When I was younger, I would search myself and stuff like that. But as I got older, I think why? Because first of all, these people's opinions don't count. Him saying I'm this, I'm that. He's not picking the team. He's not my dad. He's not my agent. He's not a close friend. So why do I even need their like gratification,
Yeah.
if that makes sense? Like now, I would never search my name. I don't really care. If anyone goes out of their way to purposely send me abuse or whatever, I just block them. Like I don't need that. Like there's football experts everywhere apparently.
Yeah, and they've never kicked a ball before in their lives, so like, who are they to say anything?
Any negativity gets blocked. But I'd imagine like it must be tough at like at the highest level. Like everyone after a game or whatever, the day after, they might be just go on Twitter, just have a scroll, see what kind of like funny videos they got, what's in the news and stuff. But if you're like a Pogba or something, you can't even avoid yourself because everyone's tweeting about it. Sky Sports are tweeting about it and whatnot. But yeah, as a when I was younger, I'd always be interested. But as I've learned that it don't matter. I really do not care. I couldn't care less about what these people say. Really, of course, I want it to be positive, and I do want to please the fans and impress the fans. But you can't please everyone. I could score a hat trick and someone be crying because I didn't score four.
It sounds like that's just something that comes with age, really. It's sort of like learning not to care about it as much. What sort of advice would you have for younger players about their social media use and how it can impact them?
Oh, I just think like first of all, you've got to be smart. Like I'm someone I don't like to post too much on social media. Like pretty much just football, the occasional thing about like the occasional like quote or occasional story of like whether my friends are doing well. But I just don't like to put too much out there because it's accessible to everyone. Like people that know me know they can call me, contact me, and like every footballer has their own private social media as well, which is for friends and family. So I just think you've got to be sensible of what you do. Don't believe any hype as well. Like if you Google yourself too many times, you'll probably find an article somewhere that says you're linked with Real Madrid. So so you just got try not to spend too much time on social media, like because like it can become addictive, and you can just waste your life scrolling on your phone. That's what I feel like. That's why I picked up French again in a lockdown, and like started reading books again because for the first week, so we had the first week of like everything was still open, we could still play five-a-side and whatnot. But when they closed that, I felt like when I wasn't training, I was just sitting on my phone the whole time, just wasting hours. So of course you don't have to learn a language or read books, but there's something you can do that's more productive than just sitting there scrolling, looking at nothing that's even. You turn your phone off, that world don't even exist. It's not even a real world. Like it's literally just the whole life on a phone. Like there's a whole other world, like real world out there if you turn it off. So just try and be productive, I suppose.
No, definitely. I think for a lot of people at the start of lockdown, like my screen time went up so many hours and it was just getting a bit ridiculous. Like got to a point where literally I think I just have to turn it off.
Should have learned some French, mate.
Exactly. Honestly, at the start, like it was the same for me, but I didn't want to, and I didn't know how long we'll be in there for, and I was thinking, okay, let's say it's 2 months. Imagine I finish these 2 months and I've done nothing productive. Like I walk away from the 2 months and I have nothing to show for it. That's 2 months I'm never going to get back. Like I know for a fact that I would have regretted just doing nothing. So I thought I might as well start my French again, and it's something that I enjoy anyway. So it was a win-win, really.
I think another thing that a lot of players were doing over the lockdown period, which was really good to see, is actually they were speaking out on important issues. Like obviously we had BLM, a lot of players doing a lot for that. Obviously when football returned, players were all taking the knee. How important do you think it is for players to use their platform to speak out on issues like that?
I do think it's very important, but at the same time, I don't like the idea that these things are just like trends and like something you do for a certain amount of time. Like, for example, someone might not post something on social media, but then they might be having conversations with real people every single day. So don't be fooled if someone doesn't post like an Instagram story or a photo or whatever. And that's why like sometimes I struggle. Like I fight myself because posting like a photo or a story or something, a tweet, is better than absolutely nothing. But then is it even going anywhere? Is it just another passing trend? And this isn't a trend. This is like a real life battle that like people face every day. Like we face every day. So of course it's better than nothing. At least the big positive is that it gets people talking, and that's probably been the issue in the past when people are trying to tiptoe around the subject. Especially what you see what the NBA players and that are doing right now, or all sports in America really. like people have no choice but to talk about it. You can't dodge it in the news. Like it's everywhere. And as long as that encourages people to educate and just look into things a bit more, then I can't have an issue with it. But it's when it's just nothing, it's just doing it to tick a box or to keep up with appearances, that's when I have an issue with it. I feel like everyone has like a responsibility to, if they see something that they're unsure of, to then research and like just educate themselves about it. Like you might see something in the news, like LeBron James is angry. Like why is he angry? Why not like do some study and don't just retweet it because your friend retweeted it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's all very well sharing stuff on social media, but you need to go further and actually do stuff as well to make a difference.
Exactly.
But I think I saw that it's something you've been interested in for a while. Like I think, weren't you interested in civil rights movement in America?
Yeah, it's not even just about like black people, for example. It's just about like equality everywhere. Like even in terms of like politics in this country, I'm not a big tweeter or on Instagram or whatever, but I do hold some strong beliefs about how like the rich and how the more privileged live in this country compared to some people that come from nothing and are struggling to put food on the table and whatnot. I'm not like a communist. I'm not saying that, but there's inequality all over the world. Like it outrages me how people are so hard on like immigration and stuff like that. Like you didn't earn the right to be born here. Like every single person, if you were born in a war-torn country, you would do the exact same thing if it's the best thing for your family. So I don't know. I'm just all around. I hate injustice and like inequality, especially when people can do things about it, but they refuse to like acknowledge the privilege or refuse to help, just stuff like that. Really.
Well, I think sports people doing what they're doing at the moment, like the Bucks and all the NBA players, that's a good start because it is going to start putting pressure on like the powers at large to make a change. Could you see footballers maybe doing similar to what the Bucks and the NBA teams did last night?
I don't know because I was actually thinking to myself as well because I know that the Bucks are so close to like their first championship in a long time, and yet the players are still prepared to do this. Like it's incredible. So I don't know. I don't know how close football is to doing it, but I know for a fact if footballers started doing it, like the people, because basically I feel like when you start to affect someone's money, that's when they really care. So of course that would have started affecting people's like bank accounts, and then maybe more things would be put in place. But this is not like an overnight fix. So the NBA they boycott it for like this season. Let's say they come back next season, like it can't just be forgotten. As in everything goes back to normal. Now they're playing. All the people at the top are happy. They're getting their money again. There's something that's got to be like this is a starting point. It's not the end point. It's a starting point to get to where we need to be. I don't know about football. I don't know. I generally don't know. I think it's such a brave move for them to do. Maybe someone might start it. It just takes one team, like one player, and then who knows? Like the rest might follow. I don't know. I generally don't know.
So we spoke to an England rugby player recently, and we are talking about, like the formation of a why, like your ultimate motivation. So you'd say yours for the moment is playing in the Premier League, is it? Is that the thing that's ultimately carrying you?
Yeah, I guess that's the way I picture it, if that makes sense. So my goals change all the time. So, but that's the one that right now I can see and it's achievable, like playing the Premier League. But the why probably is to, of course, to achieve an ambition of playing in the Premier League, but also, like, of course, in football, there's big financial gains, and it's been able to look after my family, to like my future family for my kids and whatever. I've got no kids now, by the way, but my future kids. Also, like, I'm super interested in going, like, when my dad grew up in Nigeria, his village, his state, and helping the people there because, like, I know I'm so lucky to have the opportunity of being born in England, to being in the catchment area of Tottenham, because I know for a fact, like, at like 12, 13 years old, there's millions of kids all around the world that are better than me in Africa, South America, Asia, but they just don't have the opportunity that I was given. So I can't promise that I can take every kid from Africa to the Premier League, but like if I can help put up some sort of institution or even if it's just a college school, I don't know, just had to help in some way. That's something that I'd love to be able to do in the future. So playing in the Premier League and being successful would allow me to do that. So that's something that I'd also want to do.
It's about, like seeing the bigger picture with it. Like ultimately playing in the Premier League will allow you to do all those things. So it must be like one of the main motivations.
At the same time, it's quite sick playing in the Championship as well. It's a great league. Like, I've been following Bristol City there for years. And it's like anyone could beat anyone. It is a good league to be a part of.
The Championship is absolutely crazy. Like, there's so many different styles. It's just it's so inconsistent. Like, even if you could be flirting with relegation Christmas time, you win a few games, you could be about 10, 11th by like March time. If you get a good run, if you get like maybe 7 wins in 8, or let's say you go undefeated in 10, you're right in there at the playoffs. You see like Swansea this year, Nottingham Forest were flying all year. Then that 5-goal swing means they're not in the playoffs. Like we last year, we lost to Barnsley but beat Leeds. Like,
yeah, it's mad.
It's crazy.
That last game of the season, the Championship, was just crazy. When that Nottingham Forest game was just ridiculous. I think the Championship is pretty much the only league in the world where stuff like that happens. And there's always that team who times a run perfectly just before the end of the season, goes on an 8-game winning streak, and then gets in the playoffs and ends up going up. It's just mad.
And normally that team wins the playoffs as well. You've seen it so many times. Like, of course, Fulham finished 4th this year, and we're not. But normally 6th place, they somehow get in there on goal difference and then go up. But I'll take that. This year, I'll happily take that, getting there in goal difference and going up. So it's just a crazy league.
And whereabouts are you going to be playing? So I know you're quite versatile in midfield, aren't you? Like, you can play holding or box to box.
Do you know what? I don't know. Like, there's a lot of midfielders at QPR at the minute. As long as I'm playing, like, I have a preference of being like it depends what formation you play. If you're playing like a 4-2-3-1, I'd prefer to be one of the two, or in like a 4-3-3 as like a number 8. But like, if the gaffer says he wants me to play there and he wants me to do a job, as long as I'm playing, I'll try and do my best and then try and help the team win. So I am fast because I want to play my favourite position, but I'm not fast if I'm playing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think you changed position a little bit, or changed your game a little bit when you grew, because I think you had quite a big growth spurt, didn't you? There's a hilarious picture on your Instagram of you next to Gareth Bale when you were probably like 14 or something, and you just look like half his size. It's mad.
I was tiny. Like, my journey to get here has been quite a strange one. So when I was younger, I felt like I was like average size, if not one of the bigger kids. Then I just didn't grow. Like, from like under 16, maybe from like under 14 to under 16, I just didn't grow. Like, everyone else hits their growth spurts them times, but I just didn't grow. And I remember as under 16, like, I was always good. I was always technically like not the best, but I was always clean. Like, I could control the ball, I could turn and that. In my under 16 year, like, I couldn't do anything. Under 17 year as well, but that's what I mainly grew in my under 17 year, and I think I shot up then. So I think I must have lost some coordination and whatnot. Now it's easy to say that, but at the time I didn't understand why, as like a 16, 17-year-old, knowing that I could pass the ball, now why can't I pass the ball? But to be fair, Tottenham were patient with me. Obviously, they must have seen it before with previous players, but I just didn't know what was going on. I was seriously thinking, like, I'm not really even going to be a footballer if I keep up at this rate. But then I sort of leveled out, and then I filled out as well. So once I grew, I was still really skinny, but then I put on loads of weight, and it's weird. Everything happens for different people at different times. Like, I was a late developer. That's why I'm confident I'm going to get to the Premier League, but just a bit later than everyone else. I'm a late developer.
You're still pretty young.
I feel old though. Like, I'm 23, but you see like Alphonso Davies, 19, winning the Champions League. You see like people like 17, 18 now. Jude Bellingham playing the Championship at like 17. Like, I saw some players made their debuts for Tottenham in like some friendlies the other day. They're 16, and so I'm 7 years older than him. In 7 years' time, I'll be 30. Like, that makes you feel so old.
Yeah, I guess because you've had your injuries though, like you've started your career slightly later than others, so you don't stress about it too much. You're still young, don't worry.
That is true. I do think I missed a year, but it's only a year on the other side, so I don't mind too much.
You're obviously a bloke who's sort of excelled in education as well as football. Is that something you'd look to do after football, more formal education?
I don't have a clue, to be honest. I genuinely don't have a clue. Like, of course, I know there's a life after football, but I don't have a clue what I'm going to do in terms of, I'm going to, like, even now, I make sure my finances are right, so they give me the best opportunity. So when I do finish playing, I can choose rather than being forced into something. But in terms of what that thing is, I genuinely don't know.
Yeah, we don't really need to know that much, do you?
Yeah, it's true. But some of the older players, they know they're going to go into coaching. They know they're going to do this, going to do that. Hopefully, I have the career that I want. So, as I said, I can make the decision that financially, I've got this, I've got that in place, that I can choose what I want to do. But it's something that later down the line, I'm going to have to think about, because let's say I retire at, like, I don't know, 35. I've still got another, like, 50, 60 years to live. Like, what am I going to do with that time? Like,
Think how many languages you can learn.
Exactly. I'll have the piano master and playing the violin at the same time.
No, you sound definitely a lot more switched on than Cam and I, mate. I think you've got things in place a bit more than us do.
Who knows?
What do you reckon's going to happen with Messi as well?
He's got to come to the Premier League, man. I hope he does, because I'm Team Messi. Like, without a doubt, Messi's the best of all time, and he just needs to come to England, just do his business for a year or two, and then he can retire as the king of football. Like, none of this talk like, oh, he couldn't do it in the Premier League. He only done it with Xavi, Iniesta. Let him come to the Premier League. Let him do what he's got to do, and then that's it. Conversation's finished.
Yeah, I'm same with you. Like, it annoys me when people say Ronaldo's better. Like, obviously Ronaldo's class, and people are like, "Oh, Ronaldo's better because he did it in the Premier League as well as La Liga." But it's like, no, if Messi played in the Premier League, he would do it as well, and I want to see that.
Without a doubt, like, even Messi now, was he 31? Was he 33 or something like that? Like, he could still come as a 33-year-old and tear it up.
Yeah. I think the thought of him at Man City under Pep again is just frightening. Like, he would tear it up.
I know. I think that's where he's got to go, Man City, really. Obviously, like, he's a superstar, so not many teams can afford him. Like, I'll try and put QPR in the mix, but I just don't think they could cover his salary, unfortunately.
Did he play in that game when you played against Barca?
No, so I actually missed out on, I think, like, maybe Coutinho had just gone there at the time, so I missed out on, like, the South American crew because of the World Cup.
Oh, yeah.
By the time I played against, like, Artur, I think, like, Longley played. Who else played in that game? All I can remember is our team. I was like, I looked to my left, I got, like, Heung-min Son. Like, right, I got Musa Sissoko.
That's mad.
It was crazy, especially coming from Stevenage. Like, 6 months ago, I was playing at Stevenage. Now I'm there in front of all these, like, with these superstars playing. But I felt, like, normal, though. Like, I didn't feel out of place. I felt that's where I belong.
Well, I guess you played with them throughout the academy and, like, all your time at Spurs. Like, what was it like playing with Gareth Bale and like, training with people like that?
It was mad. So I literally just missed out on Gareth Bale. But from about, like, 18 to, like, I don't know, 21, like, I trained with the first team here and there. Like, I was on the bench a couple times. Like, I travelled away to, like, Australia, Hong Kong. So I'd be in and around it. But then you feel like an academy player. But when I was playing, like, the last trip when we went to America, I felt like I'm one of you lot now. I didn't carry myself like I was one of you lot now, like, big time. But on the pitch, I'm one of you. Like, if I want the ball, give me the ball. Like, if you make a mistake, I'll try and encourage you. Like, I was just another player.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I think a lot of young players probably get in a dressing room and sit next to Harry Kane and get a bit starstruck. But actually, you've got to think, no, I've earned my right to be here. So, like, I want Harry Kane to pass me the ball. I don't need to pass him every time. I'm good, like, to be here.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, we're all humans anyway. So, like, where I'm eating lunch with Harry Kane or eating lunch with, I don't know, Harry Smith from under 10s, we're just normal people. Like, you just have normal conversations, speak about their family, speak about how was your holidays, how was your day off. Like, it just, I don't know, it just becomes normal. Like, that is just normal life. You go to work, of course, you're privileged and you've earned the privilege, but you're still lucky to go in and do what you do. But then it's just, you're going to work, it's the same way other people go to work, but you're just a bit more glamorized.
Yeah, I get it. Right, well, wicked, Luke. Well, we'll let you get on with sleeping.
Yeah, eating first. It's more important. Eating first.
Sound, mate. Well, thanks so much for doing that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, perfect.
No worries. Okay, cool. Well, thanks, guys.
Cheers. Nice one, man.
Bye.
mate, I don't know about you, but that was genuinely one of my favourite episodes we've done so far. Obviously because I sat next to you for the first time rather than just doing it over Zoom, but also because we were chatting about football to somebody who's genuinely played in the Premier League, which is just pretty cool. And he just seemed like a pretty good bloke. But I do think that my enthusiasm for him is probably going to fade when he does the inevitable and scores against Bristol City this season.
Mate, 100%, that was one of my favourite ones as well. It's just so good to be able to have chats like that with sports people. Like that conversation we just had with Luke, someone listening to it now may be feeling that footballers are a certain type of person or feel a certain type of way about them, and then listen to that podcast and just have their opinions completely change. I just think something like that's quite cool, and it's just made me excited that we're now back and now going to be putting out the podcast more consistently, and I'm just quite excited to hear what everyone thinks, really.